morning, everybody. I'm Doug Fletcher, and you're listening to What's the Hazard? Thanks for coming back or for joining us on the first time. So looking forward to having you. It is July 8th. You don't have to turn your phone off, man. I think you're good. July 8th, Friday, the week after the 4th of July, Independence Day celebration.
Yeah.
Let's show of fingers. Everybody's got everything. Good. Cam, everything. Good for you, buddy. I hope everybody had a great holiday weekend. I hope you had a safe holiday weekend. As a safety professional, the weekend makes me nervous. But hopefully everybody came out of it all right and had a good festive celebration. Yeah. So my guest today is Jim Steele, safety director. You can look in the camera if you waved to everybody. Safety director, safety manager, director with Airlight Plastics.
Environmental health and safety.
Environmental health and safety. Yeah. You are truly the EHS professional.
Triple threat there.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a big job, man. Yeah. When you think about it, how much is encompassed under EH and S? That's a lot.
It is.
And work comp and DOT and all those other things that kind of creep into this regulatory world. I know people that are
taking on a bigger
and
role,
sustainability.
Which we may end up talking a little bit about. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's huge.
Very good. Well, the reason I invited you today, other than I just enjoy your company and we always have good conversations, is you are a very adventurous guy. You seem to really enjoy, I can remember you telling me about running triathlons and all of this travel that you do. And as a guy that doesn't leave his basement, I find that really amazing. And so you had sent an email out recently about an event that you're participating in coming up.
Right.
I was wondering if you would just talk a little bit about that and explain what you're doing, and we can talk about what's the hazard that it goes with this.
We'll figure out a way to weave it.
I'm sure there are many,
back
but
to that. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
So I'm doing it's called the Hurrdat race, and it's a race in the Amazon rainforest. And it's let me tell you a little bit about what it's supporting first, and then I'll tell you about the event that is in support of it. So there's an organization called the Pachamama Alliance that I've been affiliated with for about 10 years. And they have a mission of protecting the Amazon rainforest and protecting the environment overall. But their mission is that they kind of have a twofold approach to it. One of them is to empower the indigenous people in the Amazon rainforest to protect themselves from extractive industries like oil and timber logging, things like that, right? And so
mining,
one of the things,
probably.
Mining, all of that, anything that would destroy the forest, they would try to help the indigenous people protect themselves from that, to recognize the risk and to protect themselves from that. And so one of the things that they have done is set up an industry for them to be able to protect them, to be able to establish. They have an industry. This industry is dependent on the Amazon rainforest, and it helps you establish property rights and things like that if you have an industry. And the industry is ecotourism, is being able to go, as people coming in and visiting and seeing the environment as it is in a pristine state, right? And so last year I went, as you recall, to the Amazon on one of those adventures, and just fell in love with it and fell in love with what they're doing and the people there. And this year, a friend of mine is the one that leads those trips. And so he had the bright idea, he and some other guys that went on a tour said, we should do some kind of an athletic competition. And they mentioned that to the Ottawa men and the people in the particular village there, and that would be fun. And one thing led to the next. And you can imagine how a conversation like that might go with a bunch of guys, right?
Right, man.
Absolutely. So they began to develop this athletic event, but they wanted it to be in support of something. So let me tell you about the thing that it's supporting. I'll tell you about that first, and then we'll get back to the athletic event. So this athletic event that I'm going to tell you about is in support of a thing called Ikiyama Nukuri, which means women guardians of the jungle or something like that. And what that program initially started was helping the women of the Amazon with childbirth. They typically would go out into as I understood it, they would go out into the Amazon jungle essentially if they were pregnant and have their kid, and they would come back if they had the kid, and they wouldn't if they didn't. I mean, they would, if they died, they would just be out there in the jungle, and they didn't have a real good childbirth program, whatever. Anyway, so Ikiyama Nukuri began to educate them on maybe a better way of childbirth and how they can look out for one another and protect the child and protect the mother and have successful childbirth. So and I'm not explaining that well, but you
It
get the
seems like a
idea.
noble
Right. So,
undertaking.
but then that began to evolve, and the women of the Amazon wanted to also begin to take a leadership role in protecting the Amazon,
Mhm.
because that is kind of their place in their culture, is to protect their home and to protect to take care of the home
Right.
in the Amazon.
Mother
And
Earth. I
yeah,
mean,
exactly. And that's what Pachamama stands for. So anyway, so they this program began to educate them to become leaders in their community and leaders in their country, and world leaders on the world platform, to teach women how to take that leadership role and to educate them to become leaders in protecting the Amazon rainforest. And so the Ikeyama New Career program is there and available to help educate them, and many of the women have become world leaders in protecting the Amazon rainforest and protecting the environment. So this race, then all of the money that is left over after the expenses goes to the Ikeyama New Career program. And so that's what this athletic event is
Mhm.
in support of.
Mhm.
But the fun part is the athletic event
Mhm.
and so you can imagine these guys talking, and the first thing they talked that we're going to do is a kayaking event down the Pastaza River. And so we'll hop in a kayak and we're going to race 40 kilometers, whatever that is. You have to do the math. I think it's like whatever, 12 miles. I
So-
don't know what it is, a long distance,
Right.
and we're going to race down the Amazon rainforest, race down the Pastaza River, and get to a particular village, and we'll spend the night there. And we'll experience the culture of that
Oh,
village, and
amazing.
whatever ceremonies that they do, we'll participate in those kinds of things, and just get to know the people
Mhm.
in that particular village. I think it's the next day. We may spend a whole day resting or whatever, but and that the following day we'll get up and we're going to run or trek to the next village, which is about 15 kilometers away. I think 15 miles is 15 something
Mhm.
away, and through the rainforest. They're going to clear a trail so that the northerners can find their
through
way,
the
right.
jungle.
So we're going to be competing against the Otchwa men.
Oh my
though.
gosh.
Yeah. So when I say compete, I mean like get our ass kicked. Is
Yes, I was
what
gonna
what
say.
this
So
compete is, right.
this is a team that's coming then from the States, or a group?
Just individuals, whoever wants to sign up, you can
Mhm.
sign up.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you can do it. I'm doing it. I'm not an athlete. I
Yes,
call
you
myself
are.
an athlete, but I stand next to athletes and do things they do. But
And so what happens now? So you're kayaking,
we're going to kayak.
trekking.
We're going to trek 15 kilometers through, and then the
Does that
next.
involve like compass and maps and
Well,
stuff? Are you
that's the
doing?
next thing is orienteering.
Oh
Would be
my
the
God.
the next day would be we'll get up and we'll get a map and a compass, and 3 or 4 spots out in the jungle we have to go find and check in and make our way back.
Mhm.
And
Like geocaching kind of thing or
exactly,
something.
yeah, something like that, right?
Oh my
We got
gosh.
to make our way back. So, or the and the Otchwa men, I'm sure we'll just go out and find them, and then they'll
Right,
come back and
exactly.
find us and bring
Right,
us back.
Bring you back.
That's
Actually,
probably how
that's
that-
their task, is to go
Yeah.
find the Americans and
Yeah,
get
they
them
have
back
2
to-
tasks. They have to finish it and then come back and get us.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah, exactly.
But then I think it's the next day is some fun stuff like blow darts, maybe climbing trees or things like that. And so it's just a competition, but it's more about just some guys getting
Mhm.
together to have some fun and get to know one another and to learn to respect and
Mhm. So
admire.
tell me about the organization a little bit that you have become affiliated with. It's an organization here in the States that is now providing some of that education and training to the women of the Amazon, and so
Right,
that they have a better understanding of globally what that.
Right. It's called the Pachamama Alliance. You can look it up.
Okay.
They do a number of things. They basically have 2 missions. One is to provide this ecotourism, to provide this industry to help the indigenous people. They pretty much own it. The indigenous people of the Amazon kind of own this whole process, and they weigh in on all of the decisions that are made
Mhm.
about the ecotourism, where they visit and things like that. And it creates an economy around it. If you can imagine that. I mean, we have to
Mhm.
fly planes in, we have to bring food in, we have to, they give us lodging and things like that. So they put us up, and they're paid a living wage for all of the things that they do. They're paid well and reimbursed well for all of their participation in that. So it creates this monetary way of them to survive in the modern world.
Right.
And people would look at that and think, well, you're kind of ruining it by introducing money, things like that. And I can see that, but if we don't, then the oil company is going to come in and just give them, here's $1 million. If you'll just move aside, just get out of my way.
Right.
Then they're going to do the same thing. So money is there, and it's going to be, they're going to be affected by the North. So the question is, what is the best way for them to be affected by showing by them living the way that they live and enjoying the environment they enjoy, protecting the environment that they live in, so that people can come and experience it and enjoy it? Or is it better to wait and let oil and just everything else take it off? Right. Let it go where it goes. So that's one thing that they do. And I don't speak on behalf of the Pachamama Alliance. I don't want anybody to get confused. If I've messed this up, go read about it. You'll get a better understanding. But they do that. The other thing is that they, the indigenous people have asked the people of the Pachamama Alliance, all of us, to go back and try to change the dream of the modern world. And the dream of the modern world is that we can continue to live in this linear economy kind of a state where we extract, we produce, we use, and we throw away. And that's our economy and as it exists now. And there's only so much you can extract and throw away before you run out of the things to extract and the places to throw it away. And, one good question is, what is away? When you throw something away, where is that? Yeah. Where is that?
Out of sight.
Out of sight. Yeah. Put it in
it.
someone else's backyard, or it ends up in the ocean, or it ends up wherever it ends up. So they've asked us, the Pachamama Alliance, to change the dream of the modern world, which is an audacious ask and commitment to do, as you can imagine. So there's a lot of educational resources that are available on their website for educating the people of the modern world. There's a lot of speakers that go around and they make just information available and classes and things like that, trying to change how people perceive our place on this planet. We're part of the environment. We're all connected in that way, right?
Yeah.
So
I think everything is interconnected. I don't know on a higher level what that means necessarily, but there's no doubt that everything.
Right. Well, it's a tiny little planet that's just like a little marble in the middle of black space, and we're riding around on this rocket ship, treating it as though, like we're teenagers in their first hot rod car. We
know how that turned out.
Exactly. There's not a lot of so anyway.
This is so the first trip that you went down to the Amazon, was that a year ago or so when you were down there?
Yeah, it was actually a year in September.
And was it with this organization?
Yes.
And so you had been involved with the organization prior to this trip, and that was just an opportunity for then you go down and actually live and see what it was they were talking about.
Exactly. Yeah.
And tell me a little bit about that trip, man. I remember you sharing some pictures. You sent me some photos of the trip and stuff that were. What countries are we talking about?
Ecuador.
Ecuador.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we fly in and out of Ecuador, kind of the headwaters to the Amazon.
Okay.
And so I've been involved with them for like 10 years, and this buddy of mine, Steve Tornaton, leads these journeys, but he initially got involved in putting on the seminars that they do to try to change the dream of the modern world. And he just asked me for some help, and I kind of carried the camera or whatever. I carried the briefcase and laid the paperwork out and, did whatever it was he needed. And while he did those presentations and really was very, very interested in what they're doing and how they're doing it, and began to make whatever contributions that I make. And
so you're just listening in on him and actually absorbing a little bit and thinking, oh, that's something I can get behind.
I can get behind that, and I can support that.
So the trip to the Amazon, Ecuador was
so
awesome.
They've always had that. Yeah, they've done that for years. And Steve had gone several times, invited me to go, and I was kind of in I'm not, a little afraid. I wasn't quite as adventurous when he and I first hooked up on that. And I've become much more adventurous as you have over time. But hopefully we can talk about that, how you go about making that transition. I think
for you.
Yeah. I think that's something that'll.
So this fascinates me because I'm a coward on most levels,
right.
Going to Kansas makes me nervous.
Right.
I drove through Kansas on the way to Kansas City. It just freaks me out being out of my domain, my familiarity. I'm a creature of habit. So every time you tell me about one of these adventures, I think, oh, I'm so envious that you have that spirit, and even when talking about the triathlons and things, and this was something that you've evolved into. It's not something that you were necessarily doing as a
No, I
younger
was
man.
couch potato.
And you have grown into this. So this race, are you training for the race? Are
I
you preparing
am.
in some way for
I'm
this?
actually training at it. I trained much harder getting ready for that Ironman that I did, obviously, and more enthusiastically trained, but because I was afraid, I was thinking about that yesterday. I was like, why can't I get myself going for this? And I went kayaking for 6 miles yesterday.
Nice.
So yeah, so that, you know,
Nice.
that's something.
Yeah.
And I'm running up back up to
Now,
about
were there
3
like
miles.
piranhas and stuff in the water where you were kayaking yesterday, or is that,
No,
is
no,
that going to be the
that's-
case?
that. Well, there are piranha there, but piranha actually just eat dead flesh. They don't eat, you know, as long as you keep moving, they'll leave you alone.
Okay, good.
You know, sit still too long, I
Okay, yeah,
suppose, but
no doubt. So don't knock yourself
yeah,
out
don't
when you
knock
tip the
yourself
kayak
out.
over. Oh my
Keep
gosh.
moving. But yeah, so what was your question? It was
Well,
working
just how
out.
were you preparing for this?
Yeah,
How
I'm
were-
just doing that.
You've been running, just general physical preparedness.
running. I've started running over at Neil Woods, running up and down through
Mhm.
all the hills there. I figure that's probably as close as I'll get to anything in the Amazon in Nebraska. Is
My
like
backyard.
Neil
You can run
Woods,
through my
right?
backyard.
Oh, is
and
that pretty
it's-
weedy?
Oh, that's where all this poison ivy comes from. Awesome. And so I like the orienteering. Is that
Yeah,
is that a word?
orienteering. I've never done that. I have
I
no
think
idea.
that
how
is
that works.
interesting. I used to go to Quetico Provincial Park up in Canada. It's just north of the Boundary Waters in Minnesota. It's a huge water. I was going to say water park. That's not the right description, but it's rivers and lakes and portages, and it's pristine. You know, there aren't many people up there, and I would go up there with a buddy of mine, and he was really good with topos and compasses and stuff, and I was totally lost the whole time. It actually, if something would have happened to him, I would still be up there because I could not. You know, we'd lay out this topo, and he'd take this compass, and we were at a put-in point. We'd put our canoe in the water, load it up, and he'd go, "Okay, we need to go over there, paddle over there," and I'm like, "What's over?" I mean, you know, I was just. You know, when
is there a sign?
we'd be in big water and we would paddle and we would always be within 10 or 15 feet of the portage.
Right.
So how do you do that? I don't have that ability.
I don't know that I do either. I think they're going to come find me. I'm going to go find a cool place and sit down and look and watch and, you know, and wait for them to come get me.
It sounds awesome. And so when you went down there the first time, you know, I mean, is it shocking? I mean, obviously there's a socioeconomic difference. You're not stepping into a 4,000 square foot air conditioned,
right.
You know,
well, here's the
house.
thing. Here's what really struck me. That's a really good question. Here's what struck me about that is that the people that live there aren't wanting for anything. Their kids are healthy and lively and running around. You probably saw one of the videos of the chasing kids around this one field, you know, outside their little schoolhouse, and they're not wanting for anything. They don't need anything. Yes. They don't need anything. They don't need cell phones. They don't need any of the things that we think we couldn't get by without. Right. And they just, and they're very peaceful.
The women of the Amazon don't drive Suburbans.
No, not the housewives, the mad housewives or whatever.
Yeah.
But as far as a culture shock for me, it was really kind of felt like camping. Maybe it was, you know, if you went out somewhere, it's not like a campground necessarily, but yeah, it felt like, you know, you were living with people that lived in nature, really.
They're very generous people, it sounds like. I mean, they're welcoming.
Very kind and welcoming. And there are some culture. I did have one event that happened that kind of freaked me out a bit. And we went to this one village, and in a lot of these villages, the men obviously take the front leading role. They're warriors. They were warriors up until, you know, almost our lifetime, 50 years ago. They were literally warriors that fought one another in tribal communities and things like that. And so they still have a lot, as you would imagine, have a lot of their day-to-day activities are born of that kind of place. They come from that place, and they're still real apparent. And this one particular village we went to and had a couple of meals there and did some ceremonies with them. When we got there, they had all of the visitors are on one side of the hut, and the men, the leaders in the community, sit along the middle, facing the visitors who are along the wall, and then behind them are the women. and the women are keeping the fire going and doing some chicha, making some. Yeah, I'll tell you about chicha in a minute. Keeping that going and then doing the things that they do. But the idea was that the men were protecting the women in their village, and they're greeting you and welcoming you. But the leader has his whatever, I assume it's his favorite weapon. And this particular leader had a gun laying on his lap, and we don't understand them. They're speaking in Achwa, and then we have a guy that speaks Achwa in Spanish, and then we have someone that speaks Spanish and English.
Oh my
right.
God.
So that's kind of how you communicate.
Right.
And at first this guy was very boisterous and loud and, you know, and friendly and laughing with his buddies, but you kind of felt like maybe you were in a biker bar and these guys are all laughing and communicating in a way you don't understand. And they're talking about what they're about to do to you. You know, whatever reason, I got this fear thing going when I saw the gun and
the line's drawn.
Yeah. And the line's drawn and you're there and we're here. And what is this about? And so, you know, and then I thought he looked at me and started laughing and saying something. So I'm thinking this, and my mind is just coming up. And now I got a story. You know how you get a story in your head?
Oh yeah.
And then you believe that story, and then you start finding all the facts that confirm that story.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking this thing is going to go bad. I'm sitting on the end of my, turned out the guy was just extremely friendly, you know, and I just
I was watching.
The story in my head was a little wrong. I didn't do anything stupid, but
have you ever seen the movie The Rundown with The Rock? So this is a movie. I'm sorry that's
all right.
Not totally off topic, but he goes to South America. The Rock is kind of a bounty hunter guy, whatever. He goes to South America to retrieve the son of this client of his, and this guy is living basically in the jungle in a very very modest community down in South America. Same thing. And you know, he's down there and they encounter, as he's trying to apprehend and bring this guy back, they encounter this indigenous tribe of people. And he doesn't speak the language, obviously. The Rock, he's English only. And so the kid that he's trying to bring back is interpreting, and he's telling him, he goes, "Oh, make eye contact. Make eye contact. You need to make eye contact. If you look away, you know, it offends them." And then they show the tribesmen, the native tribesmen, the indigenous. He's like, you know, they're kind of subtitling it. This asshole staring at me. What the hell's going on? You know, he just keeps, he's like, "Don't break eye contact. Don't break eye contact." And he's like, "I'm going to cut this guy's throat." You know, I mean, and it's just hilarious because it's much like what you just described.
Yeah, it's exactly like
really,
that.
you know, the communication is poor and you don't know that, you know, that
It's
maybe I'm
pretty
offending
scary.
him, or am I doing something wrong? Or,
Right.
that is so funny, man.
I had to keep telling myself they invited us here. You know?
Yeah.
We're guests. And so,
yes. And these are, they've participated then in developing the eco race and stuff. They've been involved in setting up some of these events.
The guys are all involved in that. So this is the very first one. We don't know how this thing's going to go. I mean, it could go terribly bad, I suppose. But
are there medical?
I doubt it. But yes, yeah, that's a good question.
Just in case.
We're not planning this out. We'll get a kayak when we get there. There'll be one somewhere, I'm sure. We'll figure it out
around somewhere.
So no, it's well planned. So they've hired an individual that does these extreme events, and that's what they do. They're all about safely, you know, putting on an extreme event and considering all the risk, and which actually segues into safety. Maybe we talk a little bit about that.
Well, when we talk about what's the hazard, I can envision a number of hazards.
Oh yeah,
with, you know, going to an area that you're not familiar with and doing an adventure.
That's really what safety is all about, isn't it? It's not about whether or not you can do something. It's simply about how you go about it. Right. And
how can I do this most safely?
Yeah. How can I safely and efficiently do, you know, a quality job at work? And for this is how can I safely have a great adventure?
Absolutely.
And
it's just constant. So this whole concept of risk assessment that we do all day, every day, people, I'm not sure that people realize it. And some people don't do it very well, in my opinion, but we are constantly doing risk assessments when you're driving, when you're eating, when you're working around your house, whatever, you know, when you're traveling.
Exactly.
It's a risk assessment.
You're making decisions rather not, you know, is this an acceptable level of risk for me?
Absolutely.
And so, you know, it would not be an acceptable level of risk for me just to go out and, you know, hop in a kayak unplanned and everything else, but it's well planned. We'll have GPS trackers on us, or I don't know if it's GPS. Yeah, it'd be GPS trackers on us. And satellite trackers, and so they'll know within a few feet exactly where we
you
are the whole time, and
if
they can.
something were to happen.
There's a button, I guess, you can press that, you know, if you
Yeah,
get freaked out.
The first alert.
Yeah,
My mom has
exactly.
one of those.
So help! I fall and I can't get up. Kind
Exactly.
of something. So.
So what was this, a chicha or whatever you were talking about? You were going to.
Oh yeah.
They kind of skimmed
that's a
over
drink. That. Yeah, it's a drink that that at least in the Ottawa villages that I went, that they're constantly drinking chicha. They don't drink water. They don't drink much of.
Is it
it's a fermented drink is what it is. But the way they get it to ferment is that they eat certain leaves or whatever that go into it. They chew them up and then spit them into this vat. And they do that all day, and they just keep these vats of chicha going, and they drink it and serve it. And I couldn't bring myself to drink it last time. I think I will this time. It's not alcoholic. But it is fermented. It's kind of like kombucha or whatever that you buy at the store or whatever. It's like that.
Good for your gut.
Yeah, that's what they say.
And it's pre-digested to some degree if they've been chewing on it.
That's right.
You don't even have to waste enzymes to digest it.
Yeah, exactly. It's a processed food.
And how was
their
the
version
food?
of processed food.
Yeah. Was the food good?
A couple of things. They fly in a lot of food. So you end up eating a lot of things that you would, but a lot of things come right out of the jungle. And yeah, it was really good. And when we were set up with the one village where the individual had the gun in his lap, they set out these banana leaves in front of us. I think I sent you a picture of that. And they have all of the things that they typically eat. There was fish, and there was all of the vegetables and vegetation that you would eat from the jungle. And there were grubs. That was the most impressive thing that was there, is this bowl full of grubs that were squirming around. And they're heart of palm grubs, I think they're called.
They have a kind of a nutty taste, I'm told.
Yeah,
at least that's what Bear Grylls tells me on television.
It's like bacon. It had a little bit of that. It was greasy, is what it was. I didn't eat one live. One of the other guys that I was with ate one live, but I had to cook mine. So
I don't enjoy food that tastes me as well. You know, like as I'm eating it, it's tasting me. You know, I needed my food prepared, but on the other hand,
but the fish and
you want to partake of this experience. I mean, get the whole.
I ate as much as I could make myself, and it was kind of, the fish was good, and I'm trying to think what else was there. I can't even name half the stuff. Like a potato type of vegetable. So
and so, how long will you be down there? How long? Well, this is like a 2-week trip or something. 7 days.
7 days. I think it's the 21st to the 28th, something like that. In Ecuador.
I mean, what month? When is it?
Oh, I'm sorry, September.
In September. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, are you fundraising for this?
Yes. Yeah. Actually, so we are, and I can post something out there about that. There's 4 ways.
Put some stuff on my website. We can put it on I think in the episode notes. Cam can put some information in there.
All right. I'm asking for people to support in four ways. One is like, whatever, you can support me, emotionally or whatever you call that. Go Jim.
Right. We'll send you videos from the comfort of my air conditioned couch.
Would be that.
Don't give up.
Follow me on it. If you know anybody that would want to do this thing, have them sign up. If you have anybody that, I say athletes, but I'm not an athlete much. I work at it, but if you can run around the block, you can get ready by September and do what we're going to do. Right. So if this intrigues you at all, come join us. We have room for 20. I'm not sure how. I think we had 4 or 5 the last I saw. So come join us, would be the second way. The other way would be, if you know anybody that wants to support the Ikiyama Nukuri program, that if that resonates with you, to make maybe a charitable contribution to them, and
directly to the organization,
directly to them. All of the money that's raised, that I'm paying all of my own expenses. So if you make a donation through my website that I'll put out there, all of that goes straight to the Ikiyama Nukuri program. It doesn't offset my expenses at all.
You are willingly absorbing those yourself.
I'm paying that myself. And so that's my contribution is that. Plus I get to do this thing, right? Yeah. So,
just have experiences that you will cherish for a lifetime, I'm sure. These are.
Yeah. So, and that's really it. So, support it. Seemed like there was a 4th thing that I had listed there, but I can't remember what it was. But yeah, if you have any athletes, if you want to support them, then do that. I guess that was it. Yeah.
Okay. So. I love that. I know Hurrdat's got deep pockets, but even Fletcher Safety is willing to. I love the idea, and it seems like there are so many worthy charitable efforts. I can remember back when I was with the government, we used to, every year we would get that United Way campaign, and there'd be thousands of different charities that you could donate some money to. Right. And it was always hard to select one, unless you had something specifically in your life, maybe a family member who'd had a certain disease or something that, that you were wanted to contribute to. But, having a connection to these things is also very cool.
Right. And to the people that you're trying to help. So one thing I really like about this too, and what I like about the Pachamama Alliance is they're not going there to help them. In fact, the indigenous people basically said, if you're coming here to help us, then save your time and don't come. But if you're coming here to partner with us, to save ourselves, because we're all connected, then we're all in. We'll partner with you.
I like that.
And so that's really what it's about. And that's the Ikiamanukariq program is a real good example of that they're educating themselves and learning what they need to do. And what do I need to know to be able to protect the Amazon? What is it that the North is doing? What is that all about? So that they're very well educated and they can speak to those things and they can negotiate. And one of the things that I like about that the women are doing it just starts from a different place. It shifts the paradigm of the conversation. That, most things end the way they start, right? And if you start the conversation, two guys, and we're adversarial about what it is that's going on, then we're going to deal with it the way guys deal with it. But when you introduce the feminine kind of a approach to it, it comes from an entirely different direction. It changes the course, I think, of the conversation.
It's more reasonable and pragmatic.
Perhaps, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not about who's got the biggest spear,
Right.
And so, so that's one of a couple of things I really like about that. But the overall idea with the Pachamama Alliance is that they're not going there to help them. They're not going there to dig a well. They're not going there to change their mind. They're not going to fix their poverty, which they don't necessarily have. I mean, if you counted the number of gadgets they have, I suppose they're impoverished. But if you count their blessings, I think that they would be far.
That's an interesting comment, man. That's a very interesting comment, and I appreciate their position. Don't come here to help us. Come here to partner with us,
right?
Or from a sustainability standpoint of the Amazon or whatever that might be. I think it's easy to look at people who have less, perhaps economically, or and think that they are needy.
Right.
They may be more content, more happy, more genuinely fulfilled than big money guy that thinks
I know some very miserable rich people.
Absolutely.
And I know some very,
and
very,
vice
very
versa.
happy people
who live simply,
right?
Maybe don't have all that gadgetry and technology, who are perfectly content.
In fact, I enjoy spending more time with people that aren't all about their stuff.
That's a really interesting comment.
Yeah, I don't really care.
Yeah, it's arrogant to think that everybody wants to be like you, just because you've got that, whatever, stuff, and everybody wants my stuff. And I don't agree with that. I've always chosen a more simple life. I mean, other than my clothes, you can tell I'm a clothes horse, but I had this shirt on like 3 weeks in a row and I haven't actually changed it. But, I think that's interesting. And so I appreciate that of them having said that.
Right.
That's very thoughtful.
It's a really good organization. So if you want to support it, I would really encourage you to do that. I think, how much time do we have? Can we get into safety stuff?
Absolutely. Let's do it. Yeah, we got some time.
What
my phone doesn't even work. But
I turned mine off.
My gadgets
thing will ring
don't
and
work.
buzz
I'm
and
content.
start singing songs to us.
Yeah, we've got some time, man. Let's
So
talk a little bit about safety and how the evolution of a safety professional, maybe, or how
one
you
of the
have
things that
evolved.
occurred to me, and I thought maybe we could segue the two, and we'll see how that works. But it's just the evolution of me as a person. And me professionally, and I think that this is true generally for people, is that you kind of have the first half of life, second half of life mindset, and kind of the first half of life, professionally and just personally, is it tends to be all about the dual kind of a thinking, what's right and wrong, good and bad, up and down. It's all what's what defining things and judging things, and then you spend an inordinate amount of time making sure that I'm on the good side of whatever the dual thing. Okay, that's bad and good. Okay, well, I look like I might be bad. I better change some things so I can be on the good side of that one. And then here's another one. Oh, where I'm at with that, I'm on the good or right side of that. And so you live your life trying to do that. Professionally in safety, you're constantly trying to figure out who's right and wrong in a conversation, and the anxiety starts building in meetings or whatever, because they want to do something and it doesn't quite strike me right. And so it's right, wrong thing. Where am I at? Am I right or wrong? Are they right or wrong? And I got to figure that out so that I can prove that they're wrong and I'm right, and you get tired of that after a while, I think. I found, and you you start surrendering. He goes, well, you want to give up the fight. You want to just drop your hands. Right. And I think that's kind of when you're getting into the second half of life or the second half of your career, and you start becoming a little more wise about it, and you start realizing that it isn't all about that. It has nothing to do
right or wrong necessarily.
It has nothing to do with any of that. It's bigger than that. It's much, much bigger than that.
That's an enormous concept, man. And it's interesting because we talked about a little bit about this before we started recording, right. I think. Maybe not. We'll see. When
There's
this
a couple things that better not show up
some of the things we may want to edit out of there. But I think I have one of the real pleasures of my professional life has been the opportunity to observe other safety professionals evolve. And this is very true. Like, for example, even in OSHA, when a new compliance officer comes into OSHA, they are gung-ho. They are, I've got the book. Now I've got an enforcement position, and I'm going to go out there and make sure that everybody's following these rules.
Right.
And they're very eager, and they're probably overly enthusiastic, and they cite the hell out of the regulations. And you just sit back as a more senior person and just kind of just like, this is part of the evolution.
Right.
And eventually they will hit a peak where that whole compliance thing starts to level off, and then it actually recedes. And it's not all about just compliance. It's more about just, taking care of your people, whatever that means. Or, even in life, you mentioned, personally and professionally, these lines kind of parallel each other, this evolution.
Well, they have to. I mean, it's not like you're all of a sudden a different awareness. You're a different person when you walk into work. You bring the same triggers and the same fears and the same whatever it is that makes you tick. Both, right? You bring the same bucket of water. So, so
how do you see that play out in your professional and personal life? If you care to share that. I mean, how have you seen that? You don't have to be right all the time anymore. Or?
Yeah, it's hard to give that up.
It is.
But here's how I did it. So I started working with another group. I won't mention them, but I started working with this other group that hired a life coach essentially, and she really kind of opened my eyes to this concept that a couple of things. One is that we tend to do things because of the experience that we think we're going to have, that we envision, right? I want to go to the Amazon rainforest. I don't want to go to the Amazon rainforest because I want to go to the Amazon rainforest. I want to go to the Amazon rainforest for the experience I anticipate having with the Amazon, right? And I did an Ironman, and I didn't want to do an Ironman. I can tell you, I didn't want to do an Ironman. It's like, are you kidding me? You're going to swim for 2 miles and then bike for 100 and whatever it is, 20 miles, and then get off and do a marathon. Yeah. Sign up for that. So, but I wanted the experience of what that would be like, right? Of what would being able to finish that. And if you want to do those things, then, what this person taught me to do was to try to bring, what is it that you want to experience first of all? And I want, mine were, let me back up a little bit, that you can only approach anything from two places. You can approach things from kind of an expansive giving place or love, if you wanted to call it that, or you can approach things from kind of an egocentric, right or wrong, fear-based place. So you can come at it from love or fear, right? Those are your two choices. Those are your only two choices, really. And you're operating from one or the other all the time. And so the trick is, and when you're in one, you can't see the other, it seems like. It's kind of like that optical illusion that it's a pretty woman, or it's an old maid, or it's a duck, or a rabbit.
Yes.
You've seen those things, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And when you're seeing one, you can't see the other. And it's kind of like that anyway. So so I'm trying not to go too deep.
No, you're okay, man. Absolutely.
But so what she taught me to do, what this organization taught me to do, was to first of all, is identify what is it that I want. What are some of the love-based type emotions that I want to experience? And one was adventure, joy, and confidence. I thought, okay, those are three things that you want to bring, that you want to, the experience you want to have. I want to have joy, confidence, and adventure. So what you do is, in the morning, I wake up, I look at my plan for the day, and I look at all the things that I have to do that day. And I ask myself, how do I bring joy, confidence, and adventure to that? Right. And usually the answer doesn't occur to you, but just ask, you go through it and ask. And sometimes the answer occurs to you. At one point, when I knew this thing was working, I was making reservations to go travel for work. And I thought, well, maybe I could, how could I bring joy or confidence to that? And the answer was like, well, maybe I could do Airbnbs. Maybe I could stay out in the woods somewhere. Maybe I could. And so I started looking and researching, and pretty soon I came up with a really adventurous way to travel at work. And people all think I'm on vacation all the time,
Right.
but really I'm at work. I just happen to, after work, I'm on a lake in a cabin or whatever,
That's fantastic.
And so I brought adventure to that. And also they taught me that once every couple of hours, they said just routinely through the day, what I do is every couple of hours, I have a little alarm that goes off, and it reminds me to check in. Am I bringing joy and confidence and adventure to the moment? Am I doing that right now? And if the answer is no, well, what could I do now to bring that? And I try to do that. I try to imagine what that would look like. And if it occurs to me, then I do it. But otherwise, it just brings me back to that. So throughout the day, and what that does professionally, and I'll give you a good example. My little alarm went off when I'm sending an email. And I'm sending an email to a guy that was wrong about something, right? And my email was all about how wrong he was and how right I was, right? And I'm going to really just tell this. I got spatter going, the keyboard.
Smoke coming
off the keyboard, and my little alarm goes off, and and then
there's that damn joy alarm again.
Exactly. So I stopped for a minute. I forced myself to stop, took a few breaths, and they say it takes about 90 seconds. When you're in that mindset, you're producing these endorphins, these chemicals in your head that are creating more of it, right? They're making you all crazy. And so it takes about 90 seconds. Once you stop the process for a moment, it takes about 90 seconds to metabolize those. So you give yourself a couple of minutes. If you're in that mode, you do some deep breathing or whatever. And then you look and ask, okay, how could I bring joy and confidence and connectedness to this? And I'm looking at the email thinking, well, it wouldn't be by pressing send on that, right?
Of course. Yeah.
So how would I do that more? How would I bring joy or confidence or connectedness in this case, to that? And the answer was, well, maybe I would just walk down to their office and have a chat. That probably would be a better way to do it. So I did. And it turned out my whole thought about what it was that he said was totally wrong. I mean, I was just way out in left field somewhere with my story that was in my head. And so what I ended up creating with him was a partnership in whatever it was we were doing. And suddenly I find myself, as a result of that simple practice, bringing adventure and connectedness to lots more things. Now, people at work or people that are hearing this will probably think, well, I know, you jackass, you did this thing or that, and I'm not perfect at it, but
of course.
I can tell you my experience in life and the experience I bring to life is much better as a result of trying it. And, when I fall short, I pick up the pieces, I make amends if I need to. And
that's really good. I love that practice. It's interesting because what you've just described is found in a series of books that I read. There's an author that I enjoy, William Kent Kruger, and he writes fiction books about a character that lives up in northern Minnesota, up around the Boundary Waters area. He's a sheriff.
Right.
And there happens to be an Indian reservation adjacent to this community where he sheriffs. And the old wise Mide from the Indian tribe told him one time that, within every person, there are two wolves constantly fighting. One is fear and the other is love, right? Just like what you described. And he said, the one that wins is the one you feed,
Exactly.
And so it is. And I think that quote has been in other places, but they've incorporated it into this kind of this native people's philosophy. And I think you're absolutely right, man.
If you read the Bible, you read a lot of the Buddhist literature or any deep spiritual literature, you'll find that same concept. I think is that you're either going to come at it from fear or love. And I think living in hell is fear. It creates
everything. Hell scares you. Everything is fear.
It is. And the people are scary and everything is scary. But if you come at it from love, then you end up creating that. So you end up creating your own hell or your own heaven. You kind of leave a wake of
whatever that is in your path too, I'm sure.
Yeah. And but you create the life that you have. You create it from that place. And so I don't know how much time we have, but
we've got a few minutes left, man. That I love those concepts. I think you're absolutely right about the evolution professionally and personally, that they kind of mirror each other. And I have seen this, and I take great pleasure from watching And I don't know if I personally have done that. I believe that I have, but it's hard to be, self-critical. I know that I have issues, obviously, but I see friends of mine who are also safety professionals who have gone through this evolution,
Right.
and I'm so proud of them for doing that, and I think it, I think it's the natural path for most people.
Mhm.
Most people don't get more rigid and more compliance oriented, hopefully. I
Right.
think that that's a mistake personally, I think.
Well, I think even OSHA, if you think about it in larger terms, OSHA started off from that right wrong concept, which is a good way to get started, but it isn't
Yeah.
a way to live,
No.
and I don't know much about the Canadian laws, but I was talking to a guy that was a safety professional in Canada, and he talked about they have programs that their standards are that you have to recognize the hazards and control them, and then they will come in and judge whether or not you are
Right.
doing that.
More
And I-
performance based
yeah,
rather than prescriptive. They
exactly. They're
just
partnering with
make
you.
this safe.
Right. Exactly. You
And
figure it out.
I think that's a better way. And here are a number of options, resources, opportunities, different things that you can consider or employ.
Yeah.
But we're not going to dictate to you how to make this work.
Right.
And I personally, it's more challenging.
Mhm.
I mean, some people just like tell me what to do, and I'll just, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's prescriptive. I'll do what I'm told. But it's not the best way, in my opinion. I think, as you said, we are constantly doing risk assessments. We are constantly encountering hazards potentially, and
Right.
we just have to figure out a way to get done what we're trying to do or live like we're trying to live and deal with those hazards.
Right.
It's interesting. It's a great concept, man. And I guess when the people get to be our age, that is the natural evolution of things,
Right.
but I don't know.
Well, I have one more story. I'm not sure.
Yeah, please.
It was it was about professional, and it kind of brings things back to sustainability and
Mhm.
safety and this whole concept. And that was that I well, I'm hesitating to tell this story because it how much time do we have? I gotta I get carried away with
We
the
got about
story.
6 minutes, 7
6
minutes.
minutes. I think I could do it justice in 6 minutes.
Yeah, good.
So I was in my job, and Airlight is growing. The company I work
Mhm.
for is growing and getting bigger, and the responsibility was getting a little more than I could handle. And we're looking at what we can do to improve this. Meanwhile, I think I told you the story about Abby that works there. She's our
Mhm.
she I was when I first started with Airlight, I've started these safety committees, and I think I mentioned that in a previous thing. And one of the things I did was set up 3 safety committees, one on each shift, and we set up some key performance indicators for whether or not they were doing a good job. And then I got together with the production manager at the time and asked him. I said, I need to put at least one person in charge of at least one of these committees, if not all 3 of them, that's really going to take it and run with it, so that I can point that that's the direction to go. Right.
Mhm.
And he immediately had this young lady in mind. Her name was Abby. And he said, ask Abby. He talked to Abby. She said she agreed to do it. And she took the safety committee and she just ran with it. And her key performance indicator scorecard just started going from 0
Mhm.
to up. And the other 2 shifts went into the negative numbers, right? They were,
Sure.
and so she just ran with it. And it was really, really incredible. And then and so we were having some success. And so finally the other shifts kind of, well, we don't have Abby on our shift. And,
Right.
I will go find you an Abby. You can
Right.
make this thing happen.
He or she
And
is out there.
Yeah, they're out there. Find them. And so they, slowly they did, and they found some people, and they got their scores up really good. And then so that was going on. And then Abby really took a liking to the safety profession and made a decision that was her career path. And I kind of realized that was where she was wanting to go. And she began to go to some National Safety Council's classes and taking those things and getting certifications from them. And then she found out she could get this degree from Columbus. I think it's Columbus University or Columbia University.
Columbia Southern, I
Yeah,
think.
Columbia Southern. Yeah.
Mhm.
So she started working at that. And then it dawned, I had a thought, and those are never good.
That's like when the phone rings.
Right. The thought was, she's trying to take your job. And I was like, oh my,
Uh-huh.
that's bad, And so the fear comes up. So now I'm
Mhm.
coming from fear. Right.
Right.
And I started to go there. I started to go, I got to push her back in her lane. She's got to,
Right.
she's trying to take my job. And I actually talked to a couple of people, and they go, yeah, you need to shove her back in her lane. So you can always find allies, right?
Mhm.
That will
The
post
fear
on your
allies.
bullshit. Right.
Mhm.
And so, but I was fortunate that I have a really good friend, a guy named Scott. And I mentioned this to Scott. I was talking to him about it. And he said, well, maybe there's another way to look at that. Maybe if you looked at her as a partner, which we mentioned earlier, maybe if the two of you guys joined up and you approached it from that place, partnering, that's a love kind of a thing, right? That maybe you could create something really enormous. And I thought, well, hell yeah. And that would, this job has gotten so big, I can't really do it. And so, meanwhile, I was wanting to do more with environmental, which brought me to kind of this whole topic. And so I presented that to my boss that maybe I could take on the environmental sustainability things that we need to be paying more attention to in my job, and hire someone to help manage safety at this larger plant. And they were like thumbs up with it. And everybody kind of saw the writing on the wall that Abby wanted to do this. She was really good at it. She was a great asset to the company. And so that was kind of a career path for her. So we create that. And so she and I are just really, really good partners. And the scorecard now, actually, for all three of those shifts, I got them, and me, and when I was doing it and she was kind of helping out, we got them up into the 80s, and I could just never break through the 80s. We just couldn't get that. So now that she's running it, they're 100%, been 100% all year.
Really?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So yeah.
But that's given you an opportunity to get into these other areas, explore some of these other
exactly.
challenges.
And we've been able to really create some really good stuff for Airlight. It's freed me up to do some really good stuff in the way of sustainability. And we're kind of growing a group there, a committee there, to try to make us the most socially responsible, sustainable producer of our products that's available to our customers is essentially what we want to be. And we're the plastic industry, so we're the redheaded stepchild of environmental.
Right,
I mean, you can't really find a more disliked, I suppose, oil, oil, the petroleum you might, but we're right up there with them.
Yeah.
But that gives me great joy, because it's like, if I'm going to improve something, that's the place to be, right? If people need the plastic, they need to do this. So how can we turn this thing around? How can we make this a good thing? And so we're doing that. And the owner of the company is totally committed to that.
That's fantastic.
Obvious, so,
but it is interesting how there was that moment where you were fearful, and fear kind of creeps in, with the two wolves are fighting, and the fear kind of takes the lead in that. And if you feed the fear, it becomes this weird paranoia, and all of a sudden, and you just,
imagine the story. Imagine the story. What would have happened if I would have gone with that story, found my allies, and I'd driven Abby off the chart. I'd pushed her back in her lane, so to speak. Maybe she goes somewhere else and finds a good job and does whatever, and maybe that's all fine for her. But what would that have created? It would not have created anything beautiful. It would not have created anything I would have been proud of.
Right.
Right.
And Airlight is worse for it as well, because obviously
nothing good comes of it.
In partnership, you're doing something fantastic. And when there's that fissure where you have that division, there's always problems.
Right.
And it's interesting. I have had managers over the years that were threatened by their underlings' successes, I think, or wanted to take credit for them, which is challenging as the underling, I mean, and so from both sides, there is a fear element, I think, that sometimes pushes itself to the front.
Here's something that I've always found to be true, is that when somebody's doing something that you can't explain, it's because they're coming from fear. They got some story in their head that you're not seeing, and they're operating from a completely rational place with regard to that story being true. It's not true. They don't know it's not true, but they're coming from a place where it's true, and they're doing some weird crap that you don't understand, being a jackass in some way but it's because they're coming from fear somehow.
Usually. Yeah. That's interesting.
I know that's when I'm that way. It's because that's where I'm coming from.
Me too.
So
no doubt.
Yeah.
I had my buddy, Steve, the guy that I used to go canoeing with when we'd go up to the provincial park up in Canada. He used to have this old saying, and it was more in jest, but we mock what we don't understand. We typically fear what we don't understand oftentimes. And, that sometimes allows that to push to the front and kind of push that love thing to the side, and then you have to make a concerted effort. You have to have a little beeper go off on your phone to remind you, don't give into that.
Yeah. If I didn't have that going off every couple of hours,
you're sending out some hateful emails.
I would. Yeah. At least it's curtailed a couple anyway.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, so the name of the organization again is
Pachamama Alliance.
And so we're going to put some information on the episode notes. if people are interested and they want to donate, I'm interested. I would like to donate to the
Okay.
cause. I think it sounds fantastic.
All right.
Maybe, I don't know if it's possible, but after the race, when you come back, if you got some pictures or you want to tell the story.
Oh, well, yeah, here's the rest of this. So if you sign up and make a contribution, I'll get your name. I think I get your name on the list, but anybody that I know that's contributing to it, I'm going to send out a regular email as I'm working out and what I'm doing. I have a website that maybe I'll just post things there and send a link to it.
Okay.
But if you want to follow me as I'm getting ready, you can. And then when I'm there, whenever I have an opportunity to upload pictures and describe it and little stories, I'll write and send out. So you can, if you make a contribution, then I'll put you on that list and you can follow me through the whole event.
That sounds fantastic, man.
Right.
We'd love to. And so we've already confirmed that you're eating the live grub and drinking the chicha or whatever it is.
I'll do both.
Okay,
you,
man.
Doug.
You gotta get the full experience. I don't want any northerner experience. I want the real deal.
Yeah,
So
we're gonna blowtorch that grub.
sounds fantastic. Thank you very much for sharing that. It's exciting. I envy you, your curiosity and your desire for adventure. I'm not a particularly adventurous guy. And so I've always been envious of people that have that spirit. That's fantastic.
You bring a lot of joy. You bring your thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I got my thing. All right. I bring that. Yeah, no doubt. But
we don't want to see your thing.
No, absolutely not. You don't. I think, I would encourage everybody to take a look at the website, donate if it moves you to do so. And then follow Jim on the adventure and we'll get an update afterwards. You can come back and tell us about the race and how it went. And this evolution of the safety professional is a real thing. And I've seen it. You've seen it. We've both experienced it. I think that if you are new to the field, that this is something that you can anticipate with some pleasure because it's going to happen for you if you allow it. So I think that's it. Cam, I think we're done, man. Everybody have a great weekend. Keep doing what you're doing. This is important work. So can continue to do this on behalf of your charges. And we'll talk to you next week. Thanks, everybody.